Hello everyone and welcome to the final deck when it comes to the Outlaws of Thunder Junction. This final deck is called Desert Bloom. It's probably going to be filled with a bunch of desert cards and desert dedicated creatures and stuff like that. I can see this being like a sort of landfall deck. But if you don't know, when it comes to these videos, I talk about the commander, the sub-commander, the cards in the deck and give my overall thoughts and opinions of is this deck worth it. Before we go into the commander, a word from our sponsor. The sponsor of this video is me. I have started an Etsy page where I'm going to try and be selling clothes that I've designed, thought would be funny, thought would be cool, thought would be amazing on people's bodies. So I literally spent maybe a month or two looking at different resources and stuff to come up with the nicest clothes I could possibly find with the coolest designs that I have done myself, with stuff like playmats, hoodies, t-shirts. I'm going to try and do phone cases. They're harder than I thought, but I do think that it is a really good thing to actually put into. So if you would like to help me out or help the channel out, please go onto my Etsy. It will be linked down below and you'll be able to find very nice clothing and also be supporting the channel. So links down below, and also if there's any other designs, I will be putting on any of my social media, so please follow me there as well. So the commander of the deck is Yuma Proud Protector. For 5 red, green and a white, you got a legendary creature, Human Ranger, that is a mythic. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each land card in your graveyard. When Yuma Proud Protector enters the battlefield or attacks, you may sacrifice a land. If you do, draw a card. Whenever a desert is put into your graveyard from anywhere, create a 4/2 green plant warrior creature token with reach, and he is a 6/6. 8 mana for a commander is a lot. However, I don't mind it when it comes to commanders like this because 1, it has a cost reduction, which I'm pretty sure also counts the command attack, so if someone kills it, it's still the same. 2, you're able to generate a lot of stuff with this. You're able to get a load of draw, and you're also able to get a load of creatures. Especially 4/2s with reach. They're not amazing, they're not the best, however they are quite good. Plus I think this deck would be really good as a creature token deck and a +1/+1 counter deck, mainly because you can add stuff like Dublin Season and the white token doubler as well, so that means you're able to make 2 or 3 4/4 or 4/2 plant creature tokens with reach, but also if you put 1/1 counters on them, they also double 2 with the Dublin Season. I do think that if this deck is built correctly, you can have a large army that are all really powerful. Plus, when it comes to the reduction, it's not lands from the field to the graveyard. It is also just any lands that hit the graveyard. So if you have self-mill or someone mills you, there is still a large amount to get a discount off your commander too. But with the commander, there is also a sub-commander, and the sub-commander of the deck is Kiri Talented Sprout. For 1 red, green and a white, you get a legendary creature plant druid that is a mythic. Other plants and tree folk you control get +2/+0. And at the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, return a plant, tree folk or land card from your graveyard to your hand, and it is a 0/3. Out of all of these decks, this is the first time I prefer the commander of the sub-commander. I do think the sub-commander is really good, however I see it more of a enchantment than a creature, and I think it's better in the 99 going with the commander. I think both of these together work really well, mainly because you have one that gets rid of lands and then one that gets lands back. Also, whenever you do get it, it will be then a 6/2 with reach, which is also really good. Usually when it comes to cards going back to your hand, I'm not the biggest fan. I prefer if there is a variation of the same card that brings it back to the field instead is better. However, for 3 mana and doing it every single time, I do think it is really good. Plus, with white, I would definitely be adding protection, especially when it comes to the sub-commander. Now let's go on to the deck itself. When it comes to the deck, we're going to start off with creatures. In this deck, there is 27 in total, but you get creatures just like Genesis Hydra, Sand Scout, Dune Chanter, Hazen Shaper of Sand, Ramoon Map Excavator, Scoop Swarm, Turn Timber Sower, Oracle of Muldea, World Shaper, Nesting Dragon, Perneral Behemoth, Titiana Protector of Argoth, Agent Green Warden, Sun Titan, Angel of the Ruins, Omnath Locus of Rage, Rumbleweed. So out of all the decks, this is the one that has the least most known less played creatures, but again that does make sense when it comes to deserts. This is a deck that realistic relies on deserts a lot, so there's not many cards that are going to be in a lot of decks constantly. The main one that popped out when I seen this was Sun Titan. However, again, I find Sun Titan is one of those cards that when they have a white pip in the deck, more likely than not they're going to try and put it in, which is fine because Sun Titan is a very, very powerful card, and it helps new players when they're playing the game for the first time get used to the power of Sun Titan. However, a lot of players I know have multiple copies of Sun Titan because it's in every single deck and it's in a lot of sets. Now we are going on to the spells of the deck. In this deck there's 23 spells in total, and you get spells just like Cataclysm Prospecting, Embrace the Unknown, Haven, Savannah's Reclamation, Declamate, Escape of the Wilds, Hour of Promise, Return of the Wild Speaker, Descend upon the Sinful, and Vengeance Regrowth. Again, a lot of good spells, but nothing that really catches my eye amazingly. There is a lot of good spells, but I do think when it comes to this deck, because it's in that weird limbo land of a desert deck, that there's not many amazing cards that they can put in that's a hard focused on the commander and sub commander, so I did think they did a quite good job when it comes to the spells. Now we're going on to the artifacts of the deck. In this deck there's 5 in total, 3 of them are ramp, and we're going to be talking about one, which is Cryonic Lantern. This card is absolutely amazing, and I do really think that there's not enough people putting this in decks. It helps so much. There are so many people I've seen that put a 3 mana rock that just taps for a waste or 2, or that taps for a mana of any color, and I'm like, you could swap that out for a Cryonic Lantern because they're quite cheap at the moment and it will help you solve all your problems when it comes to lands. But next is enchantments. When it comes to this, there is 4 enchantments in total, but I'll only be talking about 2, and they are Measures Anthem and the Mending of Dominaria. Again, I am finding when it comes to the enchantments of all these commander decks in Outlaws of Thunder Reach, that enchantments are usually the weakest part of the deck, and personally when it comes to me, enchantments are my favorite things because they're hard to kill and are usually very, very powerful. So when it comes to seeing this, I do find that in all the decks that the hardest thing is the enchantments to get right. Now we are going on to the lands of the deck. When it comes to this, there is 40 lands in total, which is quite a lot, majority of them being deserts, but there's only 2 lands that I actually seen that were good compared to the other decks, and those 2 lands are Scavenger Grounds. I think it's because I don't play deserts at all, or don't play a lot of decks where deserts matter, that I found the lands to be very, very, like, really bad. Like, not good at all. I do think that deserts are very weak. However, I can see this probably being good if you have your commander and sub commander out, and depending on a few cards that matters about deserts. I do think if they were making this deck, they should have put more that desert matters cards in the set, because they also add in their own cards in this, and I do think that they should be more focused on new cards with desert abilities. Now my overall thoughts and opinions of the deck. I do think out of all of them, this deck is the weakest. I would personally give it maybe a 5.9, 5.8. I'm not the biggest fan of it. Doesn't feel that there's enough powerful cards compared to the other decks that matters about deserts. It does seem to be one of those decks where if you want to try something new, go ahead. However, because it's a hard focus on a desert thing, I don't picture a lot of people wanting to buy the deck mainly as a deck starter, or to get parts, or to get the good cards in them, because there's just like, it's not worth it in my opinion. But as always, I would love to hear your thoughts and opinions on this deck, if you got it or not, or any of those type of questions. Let me know in the comments down below. While you're there, remember to like, subscribe, follow us, share it to a friend, an enemy, and all that stuff. But as always, I have one of the previous decks here, a playlist with all the Is It Worth It here, and a subscribe button here, and I will see you all in the next video.